What's up, everybody? It's Chris with ProPhoto. This is Geared Up. This is our weekly live broadcast where we talk about lighting techniques and gear and photography, and I help you figure out your life problems if you have them with terrible advice. But I still will help you. If you're watching this on ProPhoto.com, you'll probably see some stuff pop up around the screen whenever I talk about, like when I say 3x4 softbox. There might be a 3x4 softbox that pops up over on one of the sides, top, down, left, right. I can't remember which side it is. And I think it's mirrored, so whichever way I'm pointing, it's probably the opposite direction. But that's gonna happen on ProPhoto.com. You can click those links, you can go and check out the stuff that we're talking about, and we will minimize so you can still see us. So if you wanna get any more information about that stuff. If you are watching this on Facebook and YouTube, you're not gonna get that. That's cool. If you don't want it, hang with us. We're still looking for your comments. So like I said, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, we're monitoring the feed. We're looking for your comments. Any questions that you have, would love to answer them. That being said, let's jump into what we're talking about today. Today's all about setting up and breaking down big soft boxes. Mostly for what we're talking about, it has to do with the RFI line, because the cool thing about the OCF line, I didn't add it into the system, so it's not really gonna pop up, but the cool stuff about like the OCF soft boxes is kind of like this little, luckily I just had an OCF soft box just standing by. But the cool thing about the OCF stuff is it has like this speed ring that kind of like quickly snaps down. So it's much easier to do the OCF stuff as I struggle with it as I put it away. So the OCF stuff is easier to set up and break down. The thing that people struggle with a little bit more is stuff like the RFI soft boxes. They, especially as you start getting into, we're a little blurry. I get it. Cool. So the bigger thing that they struggle with the larger size soft boxes is the fact that in order to have a soft box be really, really big and kind of pop up the size that it needs to be up, it requires a lot of tension on the rods. Therefore, you have to, it can be harder to set them up and break them down inside the speed ring. So there's some techniques that you can do to kind of help you. Are you trying to get out of the front? I was like, you're backing out like a. Hold on. Oh yeah. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let's make it less weird for you.
It's like, how far away can I get away from my
let's make it slightly less weird for Kate so she can actually do her job. Let's go here to the floor. There we go. It's live, baby.
Thanks.
I think you can creep back in now. Oh, I'm kicking stuff. Yeah, you're good. Oh no, there's still a hand. There's still a hand. Never mind. We're gonna keep it. We're keeping it weird.
It's fine. I was joking.
We're keeping it weird. Keeping it weird. There we go. Give Kate some space. Cool. So again, the tough thing that people have with the soft boxes is the fact that you have to put a lot of tension on the rods to get something like a 3x4, for example. This is the RFI 3x4, to get it to stay taut. So you're not getting like any big sagging right here in the middle and stuff like that. So you can keep the light quality intact. You want that softness to stay the way that it should stay. And the same thing too with the strip box. I mean, look, if you kind of can see some of the shape of the strip box, it takes a lot to get the tension on something like this to keep these, especially these really long edges, rigid and straight, just like the top. So because it takes a lot of tension to do that, it puts a lot of tension here on your speed ring and on these rods in general. I mean, you can kind of slightly see the bend, but look how hefty these little rods have to be right here in order to kind of keep things in the shape that it needs to be in. That being said, something like a strip box can present people with some sort of a, are you looking?
I'm trying to get the computer to focus.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, gotcha. Right here.
Tighter shot.
Gotcha. We get a tighter shot on the, here, I gotcha. There we go. So the speed rings, and I'll show you the technique here on the speed ring in just a second. So we have this cool tight shot of the speed ring. I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Actually, since it's already queued up, let me just talk about it. So one of the things that happens when you have your speed ring in here is, like, once this rod goes into the softbox, it starts to point down like this. It starts to put like a downward angle onto the softbox, and that makes it a lot harder to pull the rod out of the softbox when you're trying to set it up or break it down. So, and it needs to do that because it has to start pushing that tension forward so that you can actually get the shape that you need out of the softbox, or else it would kind of pop up and you can start bending the rods if it's too far up. You need a little bit of room, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's a little bit of room inside the port itself to, one, make it easy for you to insert the rod or take the rod out, but because of that, it has some flexion. So what I always tell people to do is I like to use my rug right here. The rug works best for me. That way it's kind of not sliding against the it's not sliding against the hard concrete surface. If you don't have a rug, that's fine. You can put something down if you want to. The tough thing about grass is you might get green on your diffusion panel. But one of the things that helps me out a lot is to push down the speed ring. So you can kind of see it pushing down flat right there. I'm trying to make sure, there we go. So you see it pushing down flat right there, and what that does is it takes the rod and it points it straight into the speed ring. And so by doing that, you can easily kind of reach in and pull that rod out. So that makes all the difference when it comes to setting up and breaking down the RFI stuff. So you want to put a little bit of downward pressure on, see, I'm not doing it right now. So you want to put a little bit of downward pressure on the speed ring to get the port to be parallel with the actual rod itself. That way you can just pop that bad boy out. And then kind of it's not so hard whenever you're putting it back together. So you have the cool thing on our soft boxes, we have these colored, probably show it better there maybe.
Yeah, got it.
So there's color on the end of the rod to kind of show you where the color on the speed ring. I'm trying to see if you can see that kind of stuff right there.
Green to green.
Yeah, so this is blue. So we want to go blue to blue. So blue there, blue here. Then setting up, I generally don't have as much problem setting up the soft boxes. The soft box that I always have the hardest time with setting up and breaking down has always been like the 1x6 strip box. But again, the cool thing about having this on the floor, once you kind of get to that last rod, is you can kind of just push down on the speed ring to rock it into place. So I like using the floor. I've had other people who love like kind of holding it up in the air and doing stuff like that. Not really my favorite, but again, let's take apart the 1x4. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. It's probably a little bit out of focus. Come on back to me. Come back. Actually, let's do this. I don't want it tracking. Let me flip down to manual. Bop. There we go. We're good. Cool. Sorry about that. So again, the technique that I like to use for this right here is to push down a little bit, and you can just kind of grab the edge of the speed ring if you want to. You can do it this way if you want, but I feel like I get a better grip whenever I'm right here on the edge. So push it down, and then boom, just like that. You can kind of keep it pushed down. But really, at the end of the day, it's just about getting that little bit of a tension off of the speed ring itself and making the port kind of straight so you can pull it straight out. So very cool stuff. So same thing with the strip box. The tougher thing with the strip box is there we go, dead center there. So the tougher thing about the strip box is that it can be a little harder here on the edge, just because you have a little bit less ability to, oh yeah, I gotcha. A little bit less ability to flex, to kind of flex this out right here. So that's a lot of times where people struggle with this. Again, it's good to just kind of take another hand and push it down so you can get the rod straight out. That way there's no angle, so there should be less friction. And then once you do that, you just pull it out. So really that's the trick to all of this stuff, is making sure that you don't have the friction that is naturally put onto the softbox by just having tension on it in the first place. So again, take your hand, you can just kind of push down and then pull against it. You just want to, again, make sure you get that tension off the rod. Again, whenever it's like this, the tension kind of shifts. So I don't know if you can kind of see this. So once you're down to kind of 2 rods, the tension starts to shift this way as opposed to shifting this way. So it's the same thing. You just want to kind of pull it back. Hopefully you can see that. You kind of want to pull that tension back and then just boom, just like that. It's all it is. It's just a little bit of tension on the soft boxes. So let's get super embarrassing. because this is the one that everybody fights with. This is the Octabox.
I was gonna say we have a comment. Someone was like the Octobox is
Yeah.
the hardest.
Yeah, let's go Octabox. I didn't want to make it look like it was one of those things where I'm just showing you the 3x4 and the 1x4, and I'm going to ignore the one that's the toughest of all of them.
Do you want me to read some questions?
Sure. While I'm getting ready to start.
Me Grossman says I figured out to enter the rods from the outside.
Enter the rods from the outside.
I don't know what that means exactly.
So someone said they figured out to put the rods in from the outside. I don't know what that means, and I would love to know, because I always like to hear other people's takes on doing this stuff, because sometimes it's better than mine.
Let's see. We also have, is there a DIY way to creating a wall mounting feature so that you could just store the soft boxes as they are?
Sure. So if you want to DIY it, so the size of our Profoto, if you didn't know this, the size of the Profoto mount is 100 millimeters. So if you could literally just go to the hardware store and get a couple of, like, I don't know, what would you need? Maybe like probably like a 2x6. You could actually probably just get one 2x6. And I would chop it up into smaller things and maybe glue them up. Am I back?
You're back. There we go.
I must have. I guess I hit the mute button whenever I dropped that thing just a second ago. So what you can do is you can take. I would take a 2x6 and I would cut it into something kind of small, and then glue it together so you have something thicker, because you're going to want it to be able to hold on a lot. And then just take a hole saw. And then just drill the closest size. So if you can get a metric hole saw, 100 millimeters. Or maybe something just a little bit shorter than 100 millimeters. That way when you clamp it, it holds on there. Or if you go to like the plumbing department of a home improvement store and get some piping that's about that size, take your speed ring with you, and just, if you're doing the plumbing thing, take your speed ring with you and pop it on the end of a pipe or something like that. And if it fits tightly, go that route, and then you can just get like an end cap, screw it to the pipe, put the pipe on the wall, pop a screw through, make sure you hit a stud. Yeah, make sure you find a stud. Please make sure you find a stud. I'm right here, but yeah, those would be some easy ways. These right here, I don't know that we sell these. These were kind of my little wall cup things. Caitlin, you hit the wide shot.
Oh yeah, of course.
So my little wall cup things over there are metal, and they're actually made by us. But I think they're made for retail stores. I don't know that we sell them. So I can't say, hey, hit us up to get these cups, because I just don't know that we sell them. I snagged a whole bunch of them one day in a closet. I don't think anybody knows. Now they do. Sweet. So let's talk about Octoboxes. So Octoboxes can be a little bit tougher, especially, I try not to do ground assembly with an Octobox, because I like to have gravity help me with Octobox assembly and disassembly. And this also goes for the OCF line. Like I try to use gravity more than I use kind of the way that I do it with a regular square softbox. So what I'll do is I'll put the first rod in to the top, so it's already kind of supported here. And from there, I do Octoboxes, like I'll try to get, like, it depends on the flavor of the day. Sometimes I'll try to get 1 to 3 rods across the top inserted, and then I'll put a rod into the bottom to make sure that there's tension holding all the rods in place. Let's do the 3 rod. Let's do 3 rods and see what happens today. See if I embarrass myself. I'm also doing this with the 5-foot Octa to show you that I don't mind humiliating myself on a live broadcast.
I'm ready to do a wide shot here.
Cool.
There we go.
So there's 3 rods across the top right now, and so the next thing I'm going to do is just take the bottom rod, and I'm going to insert that into the softbox, and then again just pushing down. Now I have tension on the box in all the right places. Oh, it's dirty. So from here, I can just start putting the rods into place. So again, use gravity, especially for an Octabox. There's so many rods, there's 8, that you have to pay attention to and make sure you kind of don't cross them up or else it gets a little weird. But once you start kind of getting them in place, once they're kind of started into the speed ring, then you can drop it to the floor, push down on the speed ring like this, and then just make sure all the rods are seated properly. So that one's good, that one's good, that one's good, good. And now,
of course, hold on.
Now we're an Octobox business. So use gravity when you're setting this thing up. And again, this is the 5 foot, so I mean it's a heavy duty beast. But you can hold it up. If it's easier to put it, like if you're trying to do the vertical thing, if it's easier to put it onto a light on a stand and have the light hold the speed ring as you start to put them in place, you could do it that way. I just find it's a little bit simpler. And granted, you could probably even kind of keep it down here while you're doing it, just using, again, gravity to keep the top couple of rods in place while you start to at least get that set up there and then put that bottom rod in. Breakdown wise, I've seen people, it's not too bad to kind of just stand right here and try to pull it out, but I honestly, I just think that putting it down on the ground and being able to take the speed ring and push it down a little bit to have the ground assist you. Try to have as much stuff help you do the job as possible. Like, I mean, I could stand here all day and I've had like I could take that out if I needed to, but
someone was asking if you're concerned that the dirty ground will
if you're
your diffuser.
So so the cool thing about the RFI line is, so someone was asking if I'm concerned about the dirty ground messing with my diffusion panels. So luckily I'm on a rug and my rug is relatively clean. I try to vacuum it a lot just in cleaning up, but if you're using the RFI stuff and you're worried about it dirtying your diffusion panels, you can take them off. So you could take the front one off, you can take the middle one off, and then disassemble your softbox like that. If you're not so worried about it, which I mean you should be. I mean if you hit it with a good amount of dirt over time, you're going to yellow it. And I don't even necessarily know that you can throw it in the washing machine and wash it. I'm sure, I think you can spot. You
could probably hand wash
I think they say that you can spot clean it with like a washcloth, but I wouldn't throw it like in the laundry. So yeah, it could be a concern. The nice thing about some of the OCF stuff that's a little bit, that you can't take that diffusion panel off of, you can usually kind of manhandle that stuff in the air. But with this big boy, I like to use the ground. And again, you can take the diffusion panel off if you need to. I'm using my rug, so it makes it a little bit better for me. So again, just like the squares, even though this has 8 spines as opposed to the 4 that you have on your strip boxes and your soft boxes, it's no different. You have to get the tension and the friction away from the rod. So push down a little bit. The only tough thing about this one is that you don't have as much like hand space to kind of grab. Are you trying to? Oh, gotcha. Let me try to get back into the. Trying to see where we are.
I mean, I can just do this.
That's fine. I just gotta try to flip this down. So there's not as much space for me to put this stuff, but you want it kind of pushed down a little bit and then pull out. So just use the ground. Octobox is definitely the hardest one because again, you have all of this tension around here. But now you have one off, you can kind of just start going. Now I can get a grip and I can start going around, taking it out. Now again, this is just like I said a second ago. Once you kind of start, and it might be better to take, you can actually probably see this. It might be better to take the tension off one here and then kind of crisscross, because I took the tension off these 3 here, and now it's kind of bowing this way. So now you're going to want to take the tension off this direction. So it's just one of those things. Kind of look at how the tension's like there. You can kind of hard to see that, but it's there. You can see like this one is kind of bowed really, really seriously. So again, just kind of taking that, boom, and boom. So not terribly hard, not super difficult, but really the key to setting these things up and breaking them down is going to be, at the end of the day, I said it about 15 times, and it's really because it's the key, taking that speed ring and pushing it down so that the rod that's sitting in there like this, when it's at full tension, is flat. Cool?
Do you ever have any issues with it popping out? I'm seeing some people that have issues with the rods pop out.
Talking about rods popping out of the speed ring or rods popping out of the front?
My rods also pop out. They are not as well held in space when stored and reassembled.
So if you're talking about your rods popping out of the front of your softbox, there's a cool little, again, if you're going to the hardware store to mount your, why am I having a hard time saying this? Mount your softbox to the wall, like if you were trying to make like a little cup. If you go to the wire shelving section of your hardware store, they have these little rubber end caps that they do, because usually when they cut that stuff off, it has a sharp metal point at the end. So you have these little rubber end caps you can put on it to keep it from being so sharp. You can take those same rubber end caps and you could pop them on the end of, I was going to take the rod out of my softbox, but honestly, I don't want to feed it back in. Is that being too lazy? Should I just take it out? I'll just take it out. I'm being super lazy, I apologize. So you can take the that little cap cover and you can put it on the end of here. So it's gonna get too dark, but you can see it's relatively small. So you can take that little rubber cap thing, you can put it, come back, hello. Come on. There we go. Yeah. You can take that rubber cap thing and you can put it on the end of this, and this will hold the rod actually into the end of the RFI softbox really well. You can do the same thing with the OCF stuff. The cool thing about the OCF is it's kind of in a sleeve, so you're not trying to hit like these little pockets like you are with the RFI stuff. But that being said, those little rubber caps are really, really great. My buddy Cliff Hausner hooked me up with that idea. I just don't have any on my Octobox, so, which...
Oh yeah, and someone else agrees with you. My experience is that the rods are easier to mount if you mount them juxtaposed rods every time. Just
like tightening the lug nuts on your car tire. You want to go across. Oh, telephone call. Hey,
professional here.
Did you see that? You see who called me? It's Cliff. Cliff. Yeah.
What does they say? Your ears?
Yeah, his ears were ringing whenever I said his name.
Funny.
But so yeah, the and then of course it's like the handoff, so like the computer rings and all the other stuff too. So those little caps are really, really good. But yeah, let's crisscross them whenever you take them off on the Octobox. I don't necessarily know that it matters so much on the square stuff, honestly. Cool. So now I'm gonna have to figure out what rod I took that out of that Octobox. So sweet, let me see if there's anything on the YouTube. Hey Chris, what's up? Greg Shaw. Can I use the RFI softbox with my B10 Plus? So yes. So this is actually a question we get a lot. Can you use RFI stuff on your B10s, B10 Pluses? Yes. I call it the rule of fours, is what we call it, or is what I call it the rule of fours. Profoto doesn't do it, but 4 foot is the biggest number that you should put onto your B10 Plus. That's just because there's a little bit of this little point right here where the stand mount can come off of the thing. It can't handle too much down force. So 5 foot and up can start getting kind of heavy for it. Someone did make this really, really cool mount where they took the RFI Speedlight speed ring, and you can actually unscrew these screws from a speed ring. I don't know if you can see it. Actually, go to the wide shot and I'll show them up really, really close. So you can actually unscrew these screws from a speed ring right here. And there's this little flange inside of it that looks like this. So this is a little flange. This is the inside of a speed ring without the actual outer portion of it. And people, someone took this flange out of an RFI speed ring and then put it into the RFI Speedlight speed ring. So now you put the light inside the speed ring, right? And the heavier softbox is stand mounted to the RFI Speedlight speed ring, and your light is just floating inside of this. Really, really cool idea for using larger modifiers. So you could Frankenstein that thing together. I'm waiting on my RFI Speedlight speed ring to Frankenstein one myself, but you could do that. So you just need an RFI Speedlight speed ring, and you need an RFI speed ring, and then you marry them, and you have a stand mounted RFI softbox, which is kind of sick. So But if you're doing it where you mount the light to the stand and the modifier to the light, don't go bigger than 4 foot. So RFI 1x4, RFI 4 foot Octa, or RFI 3x4 softbox. Cool. Any other questions?
Vic answered the question about, he said Google ProPhoto wall mounts, and there are several options.
Oh, sick. So
thank you, Vic.
Vic said if you Google ProPhoto wall mounts, people have them out there. So pretty sick stuff. So Google that. We don't sell them, so go Google. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. Again, end of the day, let's just talk about the main thing. When a softbox is assembled, so this is your speed ring, this is the rod, it goes in. Once it gets tension, it pulls the rod down like this. So trying to pull the rod out like this makes it incredibly difficult, and that's what most people try to do. Again, RFI softboxes need a lot of tension, especially the bigger ones, because you want to try to keep it taut and wide open. So therefore, there's going to have to be a little more elbow grease in there. So by just pushing down, using the ground to help you, or something else, I mean, even if you just use your hand and understand that you have to get the rod parallel with, right? Parallel with the speed ring itself, then you can take it out. Cool? So whatever you need to do, use the ground like I do to get that parallel, pull it out, should be a lot simpler for you with setting up and breaking down your soft boxes. So any other questions before we sign up for the day?
No, I think we're good.
Anything on Facebook? Did anyone ask anything on Facebook?
I'm just going back and forth between Tim, so I think we're good.
We're good to go. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about any stuff, we have these one-on-one sessions where you can talk to Anders, you can talk to Gibe, you can talk to me, depends on who's online at the time that you go do the one-on-one. The links are in the descriptions if you want to come and talk to one of us about anything. But yeah, so in the meantime, have an awesome rest of your week. We'll see you next week. Geared up. Peace out.